Hello everyone, and welcome back to Clara Sews Vintage. Today we're going to be making the burgundy skirt that I talked about in my fall and early winter sewing plans video. So today I'm going to be walking you through the process of how I made this burgundy twill slim skirt. I wouldn't call it a pencil skirt, it's definitely got a little bit more flair to it than that. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it's going to be a nice staple for my wardrobe. And yeah, I'm really glad that I decided to make this. There were definitely some bumps in the road as far as this project was concerned. The skirt was a pretty simple style, with just a little bit of style detail in the kick plates that it had. And I almost went against my own better judgment and didn't make a mock-up, but because it was so simple and I thought that I wouldn't have any trouble getting it to fit. Thank heavens that good sense went out and I did end up making a mock-up, because I ended up altering the pattern pretty significantly. I stayed fairly true to the style of it, but in order to get it to fit me properly, I ended up having to alter the pattern fairly significantly. So, lesson number 1 in sewing, always make a mock-up. Even if you don't feel like you need to, I think it's really important, and I definitely relearned my lesson. Thankfully, not the hard way with this project. Thankfully, I did end up making a mock-up. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure that I would have ended up scrapping this project because there were definitely some modifications that I needed to make that would have been really hard, if not impossible, to make on the actual garment once I cut it out. So, yes, always make a mock-up. Lesson of the day, always make a mock-up. But yeah, so I actually really enjoyed this project once I got the mock-up and the pattern squared away. I almost gave up a couple times because for how simple of a skirt it was, I really was having trouble getting it to look right and fit in the way that I wanted it to. But I'm glad that I persevered because I really like the skirt and I think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of it. So let's go ahead and jump into making the skirt. The first step after cutting out the pattern is to transfer all of the markings from the pattern paper to the pieces of fabric. And I did this using tailor's chalk. First, I marked the darts at the top of the back and front side panels, and then I marked the stitch line that is on the center side of each of those side panels. So this, you sew across this line, and that creates a little flap, which will become our kick plate. I also marked the spot indicated where I'm supposed to start basting toward the bottom of the skirt. Then I'll baste that, press it to one side, and then take out the basting, and that will leave us with a kick plate. I then pinned the center front panel to the side front panel, pinning along the seam until I got to the stitch line, and then I started pinning along the stitch line instead of the edge of the fabric. After this, I just sewed right along that seam until I got to the stitch line, and then stitched along the stitch line all the way down to the bottom. Back stitching at the indicated spot and lengthening my stitch length as long as it would go, so it was just a basting stitch and easy to take out. I sewed the other front side panel on in the same manner and repeated the process with the back panels. then ironed those seams toward the side panels and stitched along the edges of the flaps to close up the kick pleats. And I forgot to record that step. I then top stitched the kick pleats in place, stitching them to the side panel as indicated on the pattern. Next, I sewed the darts in the side front and side back panels. I found it easiest to do all of the kick pleat details while these front and back pieces were still flat, so I opted to do those steps and then sew the darts into the side panels. I then pinned and sewed just the side seam that I would be inserting my zipper into. So I used a large basting stitch at the top, backstitched where I had marked that the zipper would end, and then switched to a smaller stitch length. I really liked the method of installing the zipper that this pattern used, and I plan to be using it more often in the future. So I just ironed the seam open, and then I took the skirt and one side of the seam allowance were smoothed down, and the other side of the seam allowance that was kind of away from me was pulled up away from the other layers. I then folded that back so that about 1/8 of an inch extended and the rest was folded back against the other layers, and I pinned that right next to my zipper tape. I hope that makes sense. It really wasn't that complicated, but it's a little bit hard to explain. I then stitched along that folded area right next to the zipper teeth, as close to the folded edge as I could, making sure not to catch any of the other layers while I was sewing. I then opened the skirt to lay over the zipper and stitched on the other side of the zipper teeth all the way down and then across the end of the zipper to finish sewing in the zipper. I then took out the basting from the zipper and pinned on the interfaced waistband before stitching it on. As you can see, I ironed up the other edge of the waistband, as this is much easier to do flat before it's sewed on. I then ironed that seam toward the waistband and folded the waistband in half with the right sides facing each other. When I fold it back, I like to make sure that what will be the inside of the waistband, so the part that gets folded back, is about 1/8 of an inch shy of touching that seam line. That way when I fold it, it won't quite cover the seam line on the inside, and that will make it easier to hand stitch. I then trim away the seam allowance and turn it inside right and hand stitch the inside of the waistband down. After that, I removed the basting from the kick pleats and hemmed it. Then all that was left to do was make the buttonhole and sew on the button, and the skirt was complete. So I decided to make view 2 of this skirt, and as you can see, it has these kick pleats in the front and kick pleats in the back. Now, this is the only design change that I made to the skirt that kind of differs from the original. So originally these kick pleats had an extra little panel in them, and so they would have looked like this skirt. where this is the back of my like basic pencil A-line skirt that I like to make. And so as you can see, this one just has a kick pleat in the center back, but it's like a double kick pleat, so both sides here fold in and meet at the center, and then this back part, you can kind of see the seam here, is a separate little panel that you add. So I was afraid, sometimes this can pull open even when it's just one, depending on the fit of the skirt and how you're standing and stuff like that. And so I was afraid with having the 4 kick pleats on the other pattern that I was going to make, I was afraid that they would kind of pull open funny. So I decided to simplify it a little bit and changed it up a little bit. So this is still a version of a kick pleat, but so instead of having kind of both sides fold in and having that extra panel, the pattern pieces for this skirt had like an extra panel factored in here. So you sewed straight down, which you'll have seen in the kind of me walking you through how I made it. You sewed straight down, and that kind of created an extra flap past where the seam is. So instead of adding the extra panel and having the fabric fold here and fold here, it's just one little flap, if that makes sense. And you'll be able to see it in the next clip where I'm wearing the skirt. You'll be able to kind of see what that looks like on. But so instead of having the 4 like double kick pleats where they fold and meet, I decided to make just the single kick pleats at each of the kick pleat points. So that is the only design change that I made to the skirt, and I'm really happy with it. I really like how it ended up looking. But yeah, so now I'll show you what it looks like worn. And here we are. Here's the final product. I really, really love how this skirt turned out. I love the kick pleats, I love the color, I love the fabric. Even though I almost wanted to give up on the pattern a few times, I'm really glad I persisted and stuck with it, because I really think it's a cute and kind of more unique skirt to add to my wardrobe, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. And I really love how this outfit turned out too. I think it's really cute with the burgundy skirt and the cream shirt, the plaid scarf. See if you can, my arms are in the way. Anyway, I really like it. I really think it's cute. I'm really glad to have this skirt in my wardrobe now. I think I'll get a lot of wear out of it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button so you're notified every time I upload a new video. And I will see you next time. Bye!